As current commander of Post 8, it's my distinct privilege to be able to introduce our speaker of the day. Before I do that, I'd like to take just a minute to call your attention to our honor guard. These gentlemen are a dedicated volunteer group. Aside from services like this that we have today, they provide full military honors for funerals in excess of 250 a year. It's all volunteer, and we're very proud of them. And our speaker today is Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Army retired, Robert Ranger Bob Kovacic. He was commissioned in armor in May 1970 after graduation from John Carroll University in Cleveland, Ohio. Bob hails from a small town, Newberry, Ohio, approximately 30 miles east of Cleveland. Upon commissioning, he attended Armor Officer Basic at Fort Knox, Kentucky, U.S. Army Airborne and Ranger Schools at Fort Benning, Georgia, and U.S. Army Jungle School at Fort Sherman, Panama Canal Zone. He is also a graduate of the Armor Officer Advanced Course, Motor Office Course, and Command and General Staff College. He has a Master's of Science degree in Information Systems from the University of Southern California. Bob has served in light infantry, air cavalry, mechanized infantry, ground cavalry, and tank units during his 23-year career. He has commanded 6 platoons, 3 companies, and 2 battalions. He's a combat veteran of Vietnam and has served extensively in Europe and in stateside units. He has earned Jump Wings, Ranger Tab, Jungle Expert Badge, Combat Infantryman's Badge, the Air Medal, 25 awards, Bronze Star, 2 Meritorious Service Medals, 2 Air Coms, the Order of St. George from the Armor Branch, and the DeFleury Medal from the Army Engineer Branch. Bob is president of Northridge Service Group Global, a private military company, and has served in that capacity in Kuwait and Iraq, and recently trained peacekeepers in Nigeria, Africa. He married the former Brenda Jean Reynolds of Frankfort, Kentucky in October 1972. Brenda holds a master's degree from Western Kentucky University in elementary education with emphasis in reading, and has taught at the elementary and college level for 30 years. Brenda holds the Order of St. Joan of Arc, awarded by the U.S. Army Armor Branch for selfless service and dedication to armored troops. They have 4 children. Rob, a former Army captain and military policeman who is working as a contractor in Africa, training peacekeepers. Brenda Marie, who is also an elementary school teacher and has taught at Cassidy School at Lexington. She is working on her master's at UK. Brian, who works as an entomologist for the Department of Homeland Security at JFK Airport in New York City, and who has a master's degree in entomology from UK, and a first lieutenant in the Army Reserve. David, a USAF jet engine mechanic and currently enrolled at Long Island University in Brooklyn, New York. Bob and Brenda also have 4 grandchildren, Brianna and Madison Kovacic, who live in New York City, and Charlie and Bobby Smith, who live in Lexington. And I now present you with Ranger Bob.
Thank you, Commander. Good morning, and a very safe, happy, and blessed Memorial Day to each and every one. It is mine and my lovely Lady Brenda's distinct honor to be here today, and I would like to address 3 topics. First, let's have a brief recap about Memorial Day, already alluded to, and some of its history. And then I will share with you a story about a brave and dedicated soldier who died while serving with me in Vietnam and with whom I am remembering today. Lastly, I'd like to share with you some military trivia, some of which you may know, and I think you will find interesting. The first celebration of Memorial Day began after the Civil War and was started by former slaves who moved dead Union and Confederate soldiers from mass graves at Washington Racecourse in Charleston, South Carolina, to other appropriate sites. The official first observance was 5 May 1866, and General John Logan, as the commanding general of the Grand Army of the Republic, proclaimed 30 May, in honor of a battle, to be the official day of observance, and it was called Decoration Day. The term Memorial Day was used first in 1882. It became the official title for this day by federal law in 1967 and was moved to the last Monday in May by federal law in 1971. Now, since 9/11, we also remember and honor members of our police and fire departments for their bravery, service, and sacrifices. Heroes all. Next, here's one of my many Memorial Day remembrances. Spec 4 Ronald A. Longfellow was born and raised in Chalfont, Pennsylvania, about 25 miles north of Philadelphia, on 22 September 1951. He was wounded in Bien Hoa Province, Vietnam, on 28 December 1971 and died on 19 January 1972. But he did not die of his wounds. He died because he was a young man of great honor. And this is his story. I was the platoon leader of a 28-man air rifle platoon of the Air Cavalry Troop, 2nd Squadron, 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment. On 27 December 1971, the squadron deployed my platoon with a ground cav troop along the Cambodian-South Vietnam border. I think I see some people who may have been there. Seems there was an elaborate enemy bunker complex surrounded by swamps and rice paddies along a main infiltration route coming from Cambodia and into Vietnam. The squadron wanted to penetrate the complex and begin clearing it. The low area and rice paddies precluded using armored vehicles, and when the troops' personnel attempted dismount operations, they lost 10 men due to the heavy concentration of mines and booby traps laid by the enemy. These troopers mostly rode their armored vehicles and were not used to dismounted patrols. So they found the mines and booby traps the hard way. We got the mission of getting into the complex. We were the cavalry's only infantry. We knew how to do this. We had done it before. After a leader's reconnaissance, I asked to be able to do this at night, but was denied. So we settled on an early morning approach. My ranger training told me to select a difficult march, one which the enemy would not expect us to use. We would be moving through rice paddies and paralleling a rice dike, which would at least protect one of our flanks. And I maneuvered my element that afternoon to have the sun at my back the next morning. I was provided mortar, artillery, and gunship support. All other operations were postponed for today. We were the only game in town. We moved out just before dawn. I remember it well. It was still dark, it was hot, muggy, and a blessed haze hung thick over the rice paddies. Other than the sound of 28 men with heavy rucksacks, radios, and weapons, moving in knee-deep water and ankle-deep black muck, as I'm sure some of you have done, we made no noise. I could hear my troopers' hearts pounding. I could hear them sweating.